Greetings. Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter. Thanks everyone for coming to this fine podcast filled with amazing opinions and excellent people.
I was hoping Rich would just stop at welcome.
Raising that bar.
I know. Yeah, welcome.
Right?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Right. So we had Rich on as a special guest when Kelly was being lazy. And now he is joining us for the first episode where we've had all four of us on at the same time. This is going to be a train wreck, and you have a front row seat. So congratulations to the 3.5 viewers of this podcast. Hi, Lisa.
It's like the Living Tribunal with extra features.
Yeah, with one extra face. That's right. Kelly.
What?
And, well, Mark, you've already been watching it. But Kelly, you actually did a yeoman's job and watched all of House of the Dragon. And as we were talking about before, and I've been chomping at the bit to, ask you about this. I've been chomping at the bit to talk to anybody I can talk to about this in depth that way. And there's not many people I can
running up to strangers on the street.
Well, no. There's not that many people I can do that with, not in the way that we do. So I was wondering, Kelly, what do you think now?
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, it's an interesting story, right? And I'll give it that because obviously I've stuck with it to watch it all, and I'm rewatching it as Debbie goes through the show, right? So I mean, there's that aspect of it, but here's the question that gets to me: why does this story land so well with people? I mean, because it's not a groundbreaking story, right? I mean, it's intrigue around royalty, and so there's that part of it that I'm just like, okay, I've heard the story 1,000 times, but this one's interesting, and I like the dragons, and so I'll watch it. But what makes this one interesting versus another is something that's just a mystery to me. But I do like I like the acting. I mean, the acting is amazing. I think Matt Smith, again, like I've said before, I'm a big fan of Matt Smith, and I think that he does an amazing job throughout. And yeah, I mean, it's an entertaining show. I would like, although I respect that they're being a bit, they're holding it back a little bit. I want more dragon, right? Because I like the dragons so much in the show, but I appreciate also they're kind of holding it back a bit for now, and I think that was awesome, and a good move on their part. But the one thing that does bug me the most is the time jumps in the show, right? The time jumps were hard to keep track of at times, where I'd forget who the hell a character was or understand what the hell we're talking about. And outside of the beginning, because in the beginning when they did that grand council where, the old king is trying to pass along who's going to be the heir and, handing over power, I thought they were a little heavy-handed in the social aspect of that. I mean, maybe there's 6 people on the planet that don't understand that in the Middle Ages, women were shat upon and considered, 4th-class citizens and things like that. But I think the part that really bugged me there was when they said that, Princess Rhaenys, a woman. And I'm like, well, of course it's a woman part doesn't need to be added. You're doing that to emphasize that, look, Princess Rhaenys is not getting the power that she stands as heir to be, the queen of what have you. So, I mean, outside of those things, though, I mean, I think it's shot well. I think it's written rather well. I like the king quite a bit. I liked his character. I like the character development of where that went, who he represented, how he was kind of at odds with how he saw himself and how others would see himself, always concerned about this sort of what he looks like in posterity. I thought that was interesting. But the rest of the intrigue, I'll have to say, was, yeah, I expect that. That's this type of show. But what I also don't understand is what I said is, why does this story resonate with anybody? And I'm really curious as to why it resonates versus any other representation of royalty through the Middle Ages to now.
Okay. The other ones aren't written as well. Think of this kind of like a Hitchcock movie. The throne and the intrigue for the throne is merely a mechanic. It's, the thing in the box that doesn't really matter, and it's
Right.
just the plot device to get everybody going. That's really all it is.
That's fair.
And so the intrigue part is actually because why are people interested in the queen, right? I don't care about the royals
Yeah,
or
that's
any of that
another
stuff,
puzzler.
that kind of thing. I don't
Yeah.
care about that. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit insulted by that
But
whole
the people
thing.
are interested in the queen.
Know that there is a queen, that
Oh
sort
yeah.
of thing is
I
that's a
find
thing,
both equally offensive.
right? Yeah, that's the thing, is that
Yeah.
I find it ridiculous and offensive and just nonsense, right? That
Right.
this person is being held up by everybody else, and I'd say everybody just, painting with
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
broad
I
brush,
get you.
for ridiculous reasons that don't
Right.
really matter, all of that. The thing I love about this show is that it uses that device to get people going into the story, but then very quickly the throne and all that stuff, you realize doesn't matter at all. All that stuff that we were talking about, all those, all the things that people are, the good, the bad, all of that stuff, that then comes into the forefront of the story and becomes the story, so that you
Right.
see it's not about all this regalness and all this stuff that everybody projects onto this story.
Right.
It very quickly takes a left turn, then a right turn, then kills somebody in the left turn, and all that stuff. It takes all these other unexpected avenues, and shows you that, in my opinion, there is no good guy. There is no,
Well, yeah, that's
there's
evident.
right, and that's why when you were talking about the whole the social aspect of it from that first episode, right? If it was just that, sure, I'd feel like, okay, there's another one that's just beating me over the head with a message and all that stuff. And I'm not much for that. But the thing about it is again, like with the throne, it's a plot device and takes you down this road where people start projecting onto them. People start
Mhm.
saying, well, this is my hero, this is the villain, and I hate this person, and she's awful, and all this stuff. They get absolutely vitriolic towards certain characters. You see
Right.
people talking about them and all that. And if you start questioning them about it, and you start saying, well, what is it that you like about this person? What's so great about them? What's so bad about this person? What do you hate about them? Like Helena was talking to me about Rainier, and there was some point in there where she was saying, oh, I don't like that. I don't like seeing Rainier like that. She's so tough and so strong, and she's so clever, and, all of this. And I said, clever? I said, who'd she outwit? Tell me, who'd she outwit?
Mhm.
And she had to stop and think about it. And she was like, well, yeah, I guess nobody, that kind of thing. That if you stop and you look at it, it's showing you that most of what history has been, or public figures, or all these legends and all that people think about has been your own projection onto it and making it
Yeah, that's
this
fair.
other thing. And so I love seeing the realness, the grittiness of it, with the added benefit of having, of course, people getting eaten by dragons.
Yeah, no, well, I mean,
So that's
the,
cool.
the other character, I mean, the character from the show that I found intriguing was the king himself, King Viserys, right?
He's
Because
great.
the role was played fantastically. I grant you, but I kept walking away thinking, well, isn't he just weak? Right?
Mhm.
Isn't he just weak as a character? But then I find myself questioning, is he really weak at the end of the day? I
Right.
mean, he's not taking these strong-handed moves to secure the kingdom one way or the other, but at the same time, he's also a person who reigned over peace in the land for ages and ages. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it I don't know. I think you could argue either side quite readily, but at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's whatever you perceive it to be, right?
Yeah, and that's what I loved about. And by the way, Viserys is portrayed in the show, written for the show, almost opposite of how he is in the book.
Really?
And yeah, and Martin, actually, I was watching an interview with him, and he was saying that he, and I agree with him, they did a much better job of portraying Viserys in the show, and he likes that version way better than what he had in the book. And
Hmm.
he said, I was very tempted actually to go back and rewrite, his character. And I thought that's true, because Viserys in there is almost the exact opposite of whatever king or emperor or whatever you've seen in any portrayal. Here's this guy who really is almost struggling to stay afloat in this role because he really doesn't dig it, really doesn't,
He's
he's
a
doing it.
he's a
He's
pawn
doing
in
it
many
at,
games.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
well,
exactly.
I just saw that one scene where his brother is talking to, because my wife and I, she's catching up, so we watched that scene where they snuck out into the city with
Oh yeah.
her uncle, and she said something to the effect of, "Oh, it's never been, the king's strong suit." She said, "What? He's being king."
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense,"
Yeah.
and
But
I'm coming around
oh,
to
I'm
your
sorry. Go ahead.
point of view on Matt Smith's character, because like watching him go around him think he's trying to seize the throne or usurp power when he's really not. I'm not reading
Right.
that at all.
Right. As a matter of fact, in the episode with
Oh,
well,
like he's like, these people from you.
he's what?
Good. So like he was talking to his brother. He's like, you should make me your hand so I can
Yeah.
keep all these vultures away from you. All they,
Yeah.
they're using you and they're trying to, gain power for themselves through you, and he's not motivated by that.
And if Damon was king, and I think Damon knows this as well. If Damon was king, and I relate very much to Damon. If Damon were made king, he would destroy the kingdom. Not because he would be ineffectual, but because I think he actually loathes the whole system. He hates a lot of what he is and a lot of what he's a part of. And the only reason he really tolerates it is because people he loves are a part of it. They are a part of this game. And so he tolerates it to a point and goes along with it. And okay, I'll support you and all that, but he hates it. And if he had his way, he'd cut everybody's head off who was at the small council, just about.
Mhm.
And there's just a lot of that in his character. And I dig that. Viserys is like the opposite of him, much gentler, much kinder person in many ways, and bound by this feeling of obligation to this thing that he's uncomfortable and feels unworthy in many ways of being a part of. And so I see the two as two sides of the coin, I suppose, if you will. But I love the fact that Damon is so complex that way, that when Viserys is, making his way up to the throne and having a hard time, the crown falls off and Daemon comes up and picks it up and, helps him up to the throne and puts it back on his head and everything. Just really, really well done. It's got nothing to do with the throne.
I
You're
heard that
watching this. I'm sorry,
I
go
heard
ahead.
that scene was an improv on Matt
Correct. It
Smith's part.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought
which
that was
awesome.
brilliant. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was brilliant. As was the scene at the end with Viserys, calling out my love, as he dies, which I thought was great. I thought that stuff was awesome. And again, drives home the point. It's not about the throne. It's about the characters. It's about the complexities of who they are. And I love seeing people in one moment. In the beginning of the series, you see people saying Viserys is such a horrible king. He's so weak. He's so awful as a king. He seems like a good guy, but he's such a horrible king. By the time he dies, almost everybody is saying, "What a shame. He was such a good king, such a good guy," and all this talking about his legend and all these things. And just seeing people in the moment go from one extreme to the other extreme, to hating this person, to loving that person, to hating Allison, to suddenly saying, "Oh, well, Allison's got some honor to her. Good for them. Oh, they're going to be friends again. Oh," and now they're all teary eyed and everything. And then they're back to hating them. And then the whole thing with Kristen Cole. You know how many women I saw who were, looking at him, projecting on him the prince kind of thing, the handsome prince sort of thing, and all that. And then when he turns, they turn on him. "Oh, I hate him. What's the deal with him? Why can't he get past this?" And all this stuff, without any sort of empathy. When you pointed out any sort of empathy for the fact this guy was used and had his entire life upended. And here's a guy who's all about honor and wants to honor his vows and all that sort of thing, has his whole life destroyed in a moment, just kind of, kicked away and not even given any consideration, almost laughed off, and creates, this monster. And I love that complexity. I love that in there. Or the fact that people are so into Rhaenyra and Daemon being married and having kids and all that, where in the beginning of the show, they're all freaked out and grossed out about, dude, that's your niece, that's your uncle. Oh my God, don't do that and all that. And then suddenly they're all, oh, look at it's Aegon. Oh, little Aegon. Oh, they called him Viserys. I'm gonna cry, all this.
Meanwhile, man, it's all the damn Jerry Springer show waiting to happen. I mean, that's what. Yeah.
In many ways, yeah. And of course, again, with the added benefit of dragons, who, by the way, I consider very much kind of like the Daemon character. They're playing along with a lot of this stuff because, why not? I get food and a place to live and all that.
Right. Now, see, I thought that part was pretty interesting. And,
Right.
and again,
Right.
Mark, I know that you're not, you said don't worry about spoiler alerts, but I thought that part in the final episode was interesting, is that the dragons were like, okay, we're now going to do our own thing.
Yeah.
And that played out, which really says that you as the human, you're along for the ride. We're only giving you what we're willing to give up, but we will take it all back at a
Yeah.
moment's notice.
In a moment's notice.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to know more about the dragons, and that's the one thing I want to get more out of the story is, the where the dragon eggs come from, and that whole cycle with the dragon eggs and who
Yeah.
has how many dragons, etc. I get the having a dragon is like having a weapon of mass destruction. I get that, and I get why somebody would want one, but I want more history around that.
Yeah, you can find really good for just something quick, just something to get a good primer on it. You can find some good videos online for the history of Valyria, and they talk a bit about that. And now the place they come from, Valyria, has been destroyed. There it's called the Doom, and there's not much known about that, but there's a bit of history there, and that's where the Targaryens and the Valyrians come from and all that. So there's some videos they have on that, but the dragons and what, there's still a good bit of mystery surrounding them.
Sure.
And I think that's actually smart of him to keep it that way, to have, instead of having the detailed history of this is what it was like and, all this, leaving a bit of it as unknown. I think that's pretty
Sure.
smart,
No, I agree with that. I think the element of like, you just have to accept that this thing is,
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that in regards to other storylines at one point, is that, there's this very open world that you're a part of, but there's still depth to this thing that you can't quite understand because there's no information around it. And that's an intriguing point of any particular story development. And so I think that's a nice add. But from the political standpoint, and I agree with everything you said on the psychological aspect of the show and the makeup of the characters, and that's fine. I'll relate to you on that. But from the actual storyline itself, I mean, this is just intrigue for the crown that has existed time immemorial, where everybody thinks they just think that power is going to be the thing that they want, whereas everybody else that has it, frankly, just wants to get rid of it.
Yeah, it is trapped by it.
Yeah.
And I like that's the nuance of the show that I like, is like when Rhaenyra is complaining about, having to get married and all this stuff, and Viserys says to her, look, Rhaenyra, I'm not immune to those expectations and what's required of me. Right. Even I have to do that stuff. And like you said, it kind of, or should, drive home, this guy's not free. Everybody thinks the king is, has so much power and is free, and he's not. He's bound. He's got the most chains on him,
Yeah.
And it's really taken a toll on this guy to the point to where he rots away to death, essentially.
Right. And, no, that's a good point.
And so I like your observations about that, and Viserys in the beginning. Remember in that episode where he's talking to Rhaenyra and says the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion, and is a power we never should have messed with and all that. I think there's a lot of symbolism with that, but I also think that was very good observation, just straightforward storytelling that pays off as time goes.
Right.
Now, in regards to the time jumps and in regards to, this season, essentially, look at this. And I told Helena the same thing. Look at this season kind of like the appetizer, if you will. This is just so it sets the stage. The real story didn't start until Viserys died. But you can't start the series there. Otherwise, nobody knows who anyone is.
Or nobody cares who any of these people are or how they're connected. Or
Right.
So, like, I'm with... I didn't mind the time jumps, but they were a little startling because I wasn't prepared for them, right? Because, the actress that was playing young Rhaenyra, cute as a button, and I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, where'd she go? Oh, is that her?
Cute as a button.
And it took me a minute. All of a sudden they have kids. And yeah, I just felt that was adorable. I loved it. She's like, oh, well, my uncle's not into it. Hey, Secret Service man, come on over here.
Oh man, yeah. I'm glad you like that, Kelly. I'm glad you like that. I really am.
Although I've heard that for the second season, the filming isn't supposed to start until next year.
I don't know,
and that it might not. Second season might not air until like the year after that. And
yeah,
but I think this is a thing that's currently going on with a lot of productions that I find just monstrously annoying. Are these large gaps from one to the other? And you might want to argue, well, we're trying to do it right. Well, you had the other one in the can ready to air. What are you waiting on? Let's get moving and get something
I think
done.
honestly for this, I think that was because they got bought by the Discovery Channel. Honestly,
maybe.
And so they didn't know if they had a green light on it because they canceled a few of the other spinoffs that they were looking at doing. And so I
probably
think
for the best.
Well, I think the mistake they made was looking at the Game of Thrones series in the last, season and how poorly it was received and thinking, well, maybe we better be cautious. Well, this book was complete. This was done front to back.
Yeah.
So there's no guesswork as to where it's going to go or, the framework and all that. And the showrunners aren't trying to book it out of there, And so this, I think, was a better bet, especially because you got a lot of dragons,
Right.
But the Game of Thrones series is not done, though, right? I mean, like the HBO series is done, but the books are not
done.
The books are not.
But then why did they try to wrap it up as a series? Why didn't they just leave it uncomfortable and open-ended?
I don't know.
I don't know. Rich, are say something. I'm not hearing you. You might have to mess with your audio. Got nothing. Anybody hear Rich?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to boot him out. It's just the three of us on this podcast.
He's probably talking about his beard.
Here, I'll do Rich's voice. My beard's long. And some stuff. I didn't like Namor.
Rich probably has to join again.
I'm not hearing
because if you have that happen with this, I've had that happen before where I've had to drop out and come back in again. So so since he hasn't seen House of the Dragon, we can keep talking about that.
He drops out,
and we can talk about how great.
There, now we can talk about Rich.
Now we can talk about how great Namor is going to be.
Love it so much. No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until we get Rich on there. I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah,
I got some opinions on Namor.
How's that?
That is
How is?
I can hear you. I was about to say that's better, but I'm not sure that is the case.
I'm sure it's not better. I'm sure it's worse. So
too loud.
yeah, I got a spam. Oh, I'm too loud. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got a I got a spam call from some political party, and I ignored it, and that what must have cut me off. So.
Right on.
Okay.
All right. So what I was trying to say was.
Hold up, you're getting a weird.
Yeah, you're doing your audio is being weird. You're getting like burps in the middle of it or something.
Yeah.
Burps and farts. Or are you really burping and farting?
Are you burping and farting, or is that your audio?
I am not.
No, seriously, there's some weird noises every now and again when you're talking.
All right, hold on.
Namor's the best. I love him out of Black Panther. He looks awesome.
I love Namor.
The fact that they changed all that.
Those little green shorts are so hot. The timeless haircut. Not hearing you, Rich.
Mhm.
I'm trying to utilize the headset to make sure that it actually works.
Hold on a second. Try talking again.
1, 2, 3.
No, a little longer, because we had some of the same noises
Yeah,
there.
like-
All right. Well,
Yeah,
is
it's
this
doing the
any
same
better?
thing. No, it's doing the
Okay.
same thing.
Hold
Move the microphone further away. Hold on. Move the microphone further away from your mouth. And then talk.
Try that.
How's that?
No,
Any
it's still
better?
getting
No,
that
Still
still
there.
getting the
Still
burp.
there.
Now
Now
there's
I don't
nothing.
hear anything.
It's
We
perfect.
could all take turns doing Rich's voice.
That's right. Yeah,
Telling
Rich, move
Rich's
your
story.
mouth like it's a kung fu movie. Just move your mouth like a kung fu movie, and we'll insert the words. I think Mark is the best host ever. He's so great.
That is a terrible idea.
That actually sounds better.
Yeah, you sound
Okay.
better now.
Yeah, there was a setting in this application that I had to turn off.
Okay. I mean, you
So
sound
I'm good now-
further
I'm good
away,
now?
but at
Is it a
least
burp
there's
and
no
fart
burp.
setting? Now move the mic a little bit closer to your mouth because you'd moved it further away.
How is this?
That's better.
That
Sexy.
any better?
That
Sexy.
is damn
all right.
near perfect. That is as
Yeah.
perfect as it's
Yeah.
going to get
Do you
as
want
long
to
as
do
we
a
have to hear your
wave
voice.
so that you know?
No.
Do you want to do a wave so you know, or are you going to leave that?
I'm
This is
good.
going to require so much editing. I'm just going to leave it at this point. I'm trying to make
don't
life
edit
easy.
this.
I'm just going to leave the whole thing in there.
Don't edit
I'm going to
this.
leave the whole thing in there.
Yeah.
Look,
I'll just
This is
talk
the
over
first-
the whole thing. I'll be like, Mark, go ahead.
just like normal. Yes.
Yeah.
It's first time using my headset. What I wanted to say in the first place was what you guys were talking about with the king. I actually just had this conversation very recently with someone I care about. People don't understand that the king is not allowed to have his own ideas about what he is doing. He's not only responsible for himself, he's not only responsible for his kingdom, he's responsible for all of his subjects.
Right.
So when you were talking about how the king is, someone would say the lack of empathy is not within the king. The lack of empathy is within the viewer. The viewer is not
Yeah.
empathizing with the responsibility, the weight that's on the shoulders of the king. That's what made Game of Thrones, the original series, so interesting with the Starks, was that the king, Sean Bean's character, had all that responsibility on his shoulders, and he had to take all that into account, the desires of his family, the safety of his family, the safety of his kingdom, the safety of his subjects. He had to pull all of that together and then weigh all that out, and to kind of parse that out from the place of not having any of that responsibility is really it. If you can't empathize with that, then the problem isn't with the character. The problem's with you.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love
I'm okay
about
with that.
that's the thing I love about Martin's storytelling is that if you're going to watch the show, you can do it on a very surface level, but it's never going to take you to the place that is going to be the most satisfying. Like that scene with Damon strangling Rhaenyra, okay? Which you did see, Mark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the scene with him strangling Rhaenyra. I've seen so many people who are shocked and taken aback by this and all that, and they're judging it, of course, on modern standards and all that sort of thing. But more importantly, they don't understand why he did it. They don't, they never even went down that road. If you look at it on a deeper level, and even if you look at the after show thing, they even talk about this. He was upset because here's this woman he loves so dearly, and his brother, who he did love dearly, didn't tell him about this vision, didn't tell him about the story, didn't trust him enough, didn't care enough, whatever it was, didn't give him this insight. And man, here's this guy, like I said, who doesn't care about all this other stuff and has only put up with it because of his love for them. He sacrificed all this stuff for his family. and they turn around and don't give him this. Well, man, that hurt. That hurt a lot. And so he loses it in that moment. And even so, he doesn't do her any damage. He loses it in that moment enough to, grab her by the throat and, give her the, what was it? Visions and dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did, and all this stuff. But it was because he felt hurt. He felt betrayed, And like you said, unless you have the empathy for it. And that's why Rhaenyra was not upset. Notice she didn't get upset about it. She didn't say anything about it. The only thing she said was, "Oh, he didn't tell you," because she understood what it was.
Yeah.
That's the empathy that you're talking about, Rich, that allows you to understand the characters on a deeper level rather than being ready to have your offended trap triggered at any moment, and go off onto a tangent. Leave yourself open to the story so that you can understand the story. You know what I mean? And leave the other stuff for your personal life and all that to judge things that way. Then you can enjoy the tale that the author is trying to tell you. Otherwise, how could you ever in the original series have loved a character like Jaime? If you're looking at Jaime from that same point of view, my goodness, first episode, first thing he does in there is tries to kill a kid, and that wouldn't allow for people to understand his journey, where he becomes, by the end of it, one of the most beloved characters, one of the most tragic. So, yeah, very well, very good point, Rich. Very good one. The empathy is the most important thing for understanding a story like that. And that's why I like it, Kelly. It's challenging. It's challenging to the reader or viewer. That's what I like about it, is that it's never so simple.
I think the thing with Damon that keeps standing out for me, and I don't know, I felt this during the moment when with the Rhaenyra thing, right, where he's grabbed her, is in Damon's character, there's always a lot of what Damon is willing to just allow you to be. Because Damon doesn't seem like he's somebody who's constantly beholden to what is. There's what Damon is willing to allow you to be, and I think that also goes through a lot of this at the end of the day. I mean, when we talk about the king, and even in just like real modern day royalty, or even in government in general, right, is that you're only allowed to be what people are willing to allow you to be, and
Yeah.
that's the extent of your grasp on power. Is that she may claim to be X, but unless Damon accepts X, through the pain or what have you, that there's an element of him that's at this point as the viewer, you have to say, I'm still not entirely connected to what Damon's ultimate goal is, but it's something, and it's
Well, you're
still
right.
orchestrated.
It's very astute of you to say so. There's actually a quote from, I think it was Aegon in the book, who says that the Rhaenyra, what does he say? I'm going to paraphrase. He says Rhaenyra is not really a concern. He said Daemon is the real danger, and that if you can get rid of Daemon, then everybody else is essentially going to go home. And I think that's a very astute observation from you, Kelly, that he is. That's why I said if Daemon actually did rule, he'd have done like I would, and that the Seven Kings would have been smoldering. I would have ruled over a pile of ash and bone. I'd have been fine with that. And I think Daemon would too. Daemon would have gotten up there, and as soon as they turned on him and tried to crown somebody else, he'd have had all those heads on pikes before the moon turned, right?
Right.
And the only thing that's holding him back is his love for her. You see it in his face. He's ready to go, and she says no, and he's like, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's this constant frustration, but he's still reining it in,
Yeah.
because for him, there's this other long game that he's playing. It's not this short term sort of, let me get this thing and bam, I'm done with what I'm trying to execute. With him, there's this other thing that's at play, and I noticed it in the scene where he's questioning the two guards about loyalty, and then the dragon appears over his shoulder, right? And for him, there's this other thing that's at play, and I'm waiting to see what that develops into.
I'm telling you what it is. It's actually his love
See,
for his
I
family.
really like that scene when that.
No, we lost
Mark?
Mark.
Nice. Yeah, he froze up.
started.
There we go.
Mark,
You guys hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
can
go
you hear me
ahead.
now?
Got you now. Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, so I really like that scene because you get these two white cloaks, and the guy's like, "Hey, we got a new king, or she, the king died. She's going to be the queen, right?" And I'm thinking, well, he's threatening them with a dragon. What else are they going to say? I'm like, that's dumb.
I'd
And
say
then
no.
he says, if you serve us, great. If you don't, you'll get a quick. And is it going to be bad for? That's Barrett. Or it made the scene just so much different for me because I'm like, oh no, there's a new king, and somebody points a gun in my face and goes, "You like the new king?" I'm like, "Sure, love the new king. He's great." I mean, what else am I gonna say?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the
but-
one thing that you find out that he does value above all other things.
that
is
kind of
loyalty.
thing. And so, like, I enjoyed the complexity of that. And I also want to cover the one thing about this show that none of you have been smart enough to bring up in positive, and that is
That is what?
It's exactly correct.
costumes.
Yeah, right there.
They are amazing. I mean, I like
Well,
for real though.
Hold on, Mark. We couldn't hear you. What
Like
you
you
say?
in the show. Good job.
You're getting
I said
choppy.
The costumes.
Oh, the costumes.
The
Yeah,
costumes
yeah.
and the production value, and like I say, it's the little details that
They're not
the second
T-shirts.
time you watch it, because I'm watching it again with my wife, and you get to pay a little bit more attention the second time through. And like I say, they're hitting it out of the park. And compare that to maybe another high fantasy show I've watched recently that hasn't had as good.
I just picture
maybe success.
I
in the
picture
costume
Mark
department.
watching this with his wife and being like Cartman when he made that kid eat his parents, and he's sitting there basking in his tears and drinking them. And he's like, "Oh, they're so sweet, your tears. I love them. Oh,
These are delicious."
No, it's one of the things. It was one of the things that Debbie brought up about the show. She's only seen a couple of episodes, but what she said was, that she appreciated House of the Dragon so much more than the Lord of the Ring things over on Amazon.
Yeah.
She said, while both are beautiful to watch, right? They're from a set production standpoint, it's awesome. The House of the Dragon has
yeah, exactly, Sean.
So much better storytelling to it. And she also said the same thing about Sandman on Netflix, is that she said, again, it's visually interesting to watch, and the storyline is something that she felt was compelling. And so I think to that point, I mean, if all Amazon has going on is set production value, I mean, you really don't have much of anything at all.
It really
don't have that
is.
either.
well, you know what?
That's fair.
I'll give them.
Yeah.
I'll give them certain. There's certain like screensaver shots that they have that are nice.
It's piecemeal.
Yeah.
But there's certain things, whatever. But the biggest thing for that show, if it had, and people say, "Oh, you can't compare the two." Yes, you can, because it was based on Tolkien. Tolkien inspired Martin. It was that level of writing, and just how House of the Dragon is written is so much better than how this WB level production over on Amazon is. It's just night and day, and it breaks my heart, man. It
was
breaks
disingenuous
my heart.
to Tolkien at the end of the day, right? I mean, it really is sort of an affront to the level of what he did.
Thing though, like HBO. Yeah. So
Mark, you're already
choppy again
on HBO, which is killing it with House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, for crying!
Yeah, you're getting choppy.
Loud. Okay. What House of the Dragon on HBO is doing really, really well, and it's killing it. And yet Westworld, I've grown bored with.
Yeah.
Like Westworld is, You know what I'm saying?
So,
but it's and granted, it's not the same producers, but it's all under the HBO kind of banner. And it's amazing to me that they're doing such a good job on this show, and I couldn't care less about how Westworld.
You know what?
They're no longer in Westworld.
You know what Westworld did wrong is that they went the Lost route, which is the constant mystery thing.
Mystery box.
Yeah.
Mystery box.
And after a while, you just get
That's
bored
Bad
with
Robot all over all the time. That's all they do is mystery box. That's the problem with Rings of Power, is that they wanted to put in the mystery box. Oh, who's Sauron? Oh, he's a mystery box. Oh, what's up with Galadriel? Oh, she's a mystery box. You know what, Sean? Back to your initial point that you said, why is the House of the Dragon writing so good? It's because it's a concept that a lot
That was
of
Kelly.
stories. Was it Kelly? Oh, I thought it was Sean, but it's Kelly. Okay. Uh,
I know why it's
the,
so good.
okay. Well, the reason why I think people have such a gravitation to it is that it looks at consequences beyond the first level. It looks at second, third, and fourth level consequences. So the king is not just looking at what happens tomorrow or what happens next year. He's looking down his legacy
Yeah.
through
time.
throughout the time, and that's what makes it interesting, is that there's an analysis of not just what's happening from scene to scene, but and that's why they do those time jumps, because the time jumps allow you to see, oh, well, this is what happened beyond this guy's reign, or beyond this guy's time, or beyond when he was strong and now he's weak. So there's an analysis of second, third, and fourth level consequences, which is not addressed in the Rings of Power. The Rings of Power is compressing down 5,000 years of history into a week.
Yeah.
And it's not looking at the consequences. They don't care about them. They're like, well, we can't handle any of that because we're not. They claim that Tolkien wasn't smart enough to write the story that they're writing. The problem is they're not smart enough to condense their story into what Tolkien laid out for them.
Yeah.
The landscape they have is too complicated for them to
or they don't have the rights for that part of the story.
Or that, yes, or they only have 118 pages of appendixes which they can write off of.
But you know, if they just had, if they were,
they're not smart enough.
If they were able to write dialogue, even that, if they were able to write dialogue as well, that would be something. I saw Viserys's death episode.
No, you have not seen what she has seen. You have not seen it.
I saw Viserys's death episode. I saw his death episode the same day I saw the death episode for the king from Rings of Power. And I was sitting there looking at it and thinking, man, what a stark difference between the level of writing, the level of thought into the direction. I'm not going to blame the actor, because who knows? The actor may have done the best.
The actors get what they get. That's what they get.
But the direction, the writing, all of that, it's just such a marked difference. And one of them was kind of like a stage play, and I mean, like, high school level, and the other one was
Renaissance fair,
a masterpiece.
Well, I'm starting to wonder who.
And you froze up again, Mark.
Whose bright idea it was to.
There you go.
Have both of these shows come out
at the same time.
I don't think it was a choice. I think House of the Dragon gamed it.
To have both of these shows come out so close together. As far as my audience, we over from Comcast to FiOS, and so that is about the only thing that has changed. And I think I'm connected to the box upstairs and not the repeater, which is down here. I'm not going to mess with it right now because
it's okay. We don't need to hear you that often. It's okay.
All right.
That's it. I'm going to shut up now and look interesting.
You do that. Yeah, you do that. Yeah. Your frozen way. Yes.
I think, but see, this is my thing.
He's handsome though.
This is my thing with shows, though, is that it takes a lot to get me to want to invest that time to
angelic cherubic.
It takes me a bit of time to want to invest it, because I'll watch the first episode of something, right? Because I got people all the time telling me, Kelly, go watch this thing, you're gonna love it, and I'm like, I don't know, man. People tell me that shit all the time. I don't love anything, and so I'll go sit down and like the House of the Dragon. My first thing was like, well, this is just a bunch of drama around a throne. I mean, I've seen this story 1,000 times. What makes me want to sit here and watch this show? Like, I want something out of the show that starts to challenge, some thought process that I might have, or cause me to go deeper on a subject, something like that. And my initial take on the first episode of House of the Dragon was like, but yeah, I'll stick with it. The thing over on Amazon, over on Yeah, Amazon, right? The Rings of Power. I'm never going to go back to that. I'm never going to.
Yeah.
There were moments of that. There were moments of that first episode where I got up to go to the bathroom, came back, and didn't feel like I had to rewind to see what the hell happened.
Not at all.
But you gotta suffer through the first season to know how good the second season is.
That's why I
Yeah.
usually don't watch things until
Right, but
after
if you're
they're
gonna
like
make
2 or
me
3
suffer
seasons
through
in.
9
Yeah,
hours.
if you're gonna make me suffer through a season, House of the Dragon is how you make me suffer through a season for your. We'll talk about a setup.
Yeah.
Right? You know, now everybody's
that.
like, how long until the next season? Oh man, what am I
No,
gonna do for 2 years?
So
Yeah,
the
I'll give you
latest
that.
season. So I just finished the latest season of Stranger Things, and previous to that, I finished the
How
latest season
dare
of.
you? How dare
Oh.
you bring that up in an episode where we're talking about House of the Dragon?
I know.
Look,
What? We already
I'm-
covered that like way
I'm
back in like
talking-
episode 4.
I just I'm a late bloomer. Okay.
Yeah. I'll
So-
say.
Yes, exactly. So I just wasn't interested after season 3. I wasn't interested in watching season 4. So I watched season 4, and season 4 I really enjoyed. But when you speak of suffering through a season, people talk about the other Amazon series, the superhero series.
The Boys, or which
The
one? are you
Boys,
talking
yes.
about?
So the Boys,
The
the
Boys.
Boys season, the previous season of the Boys, I did not enjoy. I suffered through it. However, the following season, the one with Soldier Boy, the latest one, I enjoyed the whole way through. I binge watched that thing, which I rarely do. Suffering through a season is not something that anyone should have to do if your show is doing well.
Right,
So
right,
when they say that the Rings of Power, you should not have to suffer through anything that's based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. Everything that J.R.R. Tolkien did for 60 years was not sufferable. It was
That's
enjoyable for anyone who enjoyed it.
100%.
If you liked that stuff, you enjoyed what he did. The fact that they made any of what was adapted from his work suffering is a knock on them. It's not a knock on Tolkien, which is what they tried to pull off. They tried to say, well, he couldn't write the story that was good enough for the modern age. No. His stuff's been good enough for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So the fact that they would pull that off, and now apparently they're both fired. The showrunners are both fired from that second season.
That's
or
what I heard. Yeah.
Reduced in impact, which is
Okay.
which is bullshit for fired. I wanted the Rings of Power to be good. They were
Yeah,
going
I
to
did
invest
too.
$1 billion. The Tolkien has been part of my life since I was about 12 years old. And so that's more than 40 years. And the fact that they could take something like that and make so many people like me, who have made it part of their entire life, despise what they were doing, is not a knock on the creator. It's a knock on them.
Yeah.
And
With Peter Jackson, who took this property that we all love
yeah,
and did it justice, we all get that there were things that you had to change, tweak, leave out to pull
Yeah.
it off.
Tom Bombadil.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I know I was never a fan
no,
of Tom
don't,
Bombadil.
no. Do not
yeah.
speak
Oh,
ill
look,
of the
I ran into
Bombadil
this
is
guy in the middle
awful.
of the woods with his
Do
girlfriend.
not speak
What
ill
did
of the
I give-
Bombadillo.
What
He's
did I give
awful.
the ring to him? That was so dumb.
He is the Boba Fett of the world of Tolkien.
And Boba Fett got his own damn series, which sucked.
Which
So
sucked,
don't-
that's right.
Yeah, which sucked.
And I'm sure when they cancel Rings of Power, they're gonna do the Tom Bombadil series next.
Oh, they ain't canceling that. They're seeing that through the end. Bezos is going to spend all his billions on that.
That's the one thing I would love to go back in time and punch Tolkien in the face for.
Bombadillo?
Yeah.
Come on.
Tom Bombadil was a miss.
No, he was not.
Yeah.
He was
Anyway.
not. He was
No, you know
part
what
of
it
an
is?
older
No,
time.
the Hobbits left the Shire and they went into the old forest and they ended up getting some crazy wacky mushrooms that were mixed in with their
Yeah.
stew.
No.
And that whole chapter is them
You
tripping balls
fools.
around the campfire. That's what it is.
You fools. Tom Bombadil is oldest. Those yellow boots are a representation of his power. You don't understand.
You're right. You're
Tom
exactly
Bomdabil.
right.
Tom Bomdabil is that guy standing on the street corner yelling about the end is nigh that people ignore. That's
Tom Bomdabil.
From the Barrow Whites, and you just ignore that part of the story.
right.
They were locked in
but
the
again,
dungeons with the Barrow Whites.
Yeah, I'll ignore anything in that story.
I know. I would
that
like to have
has
seen the
Tom
Barrowlight
Bombadil.
stuff and the
Yes.
Scouring of the Shire.
That's
There was a couple things
how
that did not make it into the movies that I wish were there. But
that's how Pippin
overall,
got the
he
dagger
respected
that
the material
stabbed
and
the
it
Witch
showed.
King. That's how he got that
Right.
dagger that stabbed the Witch King in the ankle that let Éowyn be girl power. You guys, look,
Right,
you
but it wasn't
cannot
in the
discount
movie, so that's not how
Bombadillo.
we got it. Sorry.
The
It
movies,
actually-
the
they
movies
issued
didn't
it
have
to
him at
him.
all. Nobody complained.
Actually-
Nobody said, "Hey, it seems like there's something missing. There should be an old
Actually,
fat guy
you
who's
plebs-
somehow important who
Look, you
gives
plebs.
a knife that
So,
helps to
If you played the
And-
Decipher
His
trading card game, which was based off of
Girlfriend.
Weta's Designs, if you played the Decipher trading card game, which is based off of Weta's Designs, there was a Tom Bombadil costume and actor, as well as a Goldberry
Nobody played
costume
that.
and
That's
actor.
funny because I don't remember him in the movie.
Yes. Yes.
I don't even remember a deleted
Or the-
scene. Maybe it was in the bloopers. Maybe there was a blooper where they
Was there a
had
blooper?
Tom
Yeah.
Bombadil.
There wasn't a blooper.
That
was-
whole
It's just-
chapter was a
everybody
It's
blooper.
laughed.
just in
He
a
was played by
salt mine
Steve
in
Carell.
Transylvania. It's in a salt mine in Transylvania, just like the last cut of Event Horizon.
Yeah. So, all right.
Okay.
Well,
All right, what's next?
All right, so I think we have successfully talked about
Yes.
House of the Dragon. You know what
Yes.
I would
You
love
have.
to talk about? The upcoming Wakanda Forever movie. I would love
Oh,
do you want to do, Mark? Do you want to do a separate episode on that?
to talk about that.
do you want to talk about Werewolf by Night?
That
We
Do
can
you
talk
wanna
about Werewolf by
I
Night.
wanna talk about
do you want to
Werewolf
do
by
a
Night,
separate
actually.
episode with all that stuff?
that
It's up to you guys.
It's up to Mark, really.
It's up to me, so shut up. So we're gonna do House of the Dragon and a little bit of the what is it, Rings of Power, and I think that's good
Yeah.
for
Okay.
this episode. We've actually been going for almost an hour anyway, so
Right,
it probably
that's
is
what I
time
mean.
to-
52 minutes and
To
24
break.
seconds.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
So
I've
we
got
will-
51, 59, but
That's because you're lagging.
Yes.
apparently
So that's
so laggy.
So thank you for joining us on this one, folks. And in the next one, we will be talking about all that other goodness. And we'll see you then.
So.
Yay! Bye.
This concludes our Speak Nerd and Enter broadcast.